Let's speak now to our special correspondent, Alex Crawford, who is one of the signatories. Good evening to you, Alex. Good to see you. As with anything to do with this conflict, it's going to provoke an impassioned response. So, as someone who's reported from so many conflicts over the past few years, explain why you felt it was important to sign it.
Well, the main reason is that we are not being allowed into Gaza, that no foreign journalist has been allowed in to get free, unfettered access to Gaza since October the 7th. The only journalists who are inside are those who were already there on October the 7th, and many of them have died in the meantime. So we feel it's important to have fresh eyes, fresh people, and a variety of foreign journalists from all the different outlets on the ground and seeing it as it is. There's a vacuum of information, really, and a lot of suspicion, confusion, and doubt. This is a war that is as much about propaganda, misinformation and disinformation as anything else. And until you have independent journalists given unfettered access, those doubts are going to remain.
Let's be clear here. It's not as if you haven't tried, as colleagues of other news organisations have as well, if not from the Israel side, through Egypt. How has that been? Because it's almost impossible, I understand.
It is impossible unless you get Israeli permission. That is completely, absolutely, categorically true, I'm afraid. Even through the Egyptian Rafah crossing, you need Israeli permission to cross in. You need Israeli permission for any of the aid trucks to go in. You need Israeli permission for aid workers to go in, for any of the doctors to go in. Without the Israeli permission, you do not get in.
And let's be clear as well, Alex, others have tried a more formal route. The Foreign Press Association, for example, was denied by Israel's Supreme Court. What was their argument against allowing access?
There was a lot of arguments from the IDF. They said that that it was essential. Sorry, let me just find it. That there was they were going to be, journalists could be put at risk in wartime. That's the same covering in any war. That they might endanger soldiers by reporting on troop positions. That's also the same in any war. And that it's too dangerous for Israeli personnel to be present at the border to facilitate press entry to Gaza. All those conditions are the same in any war. And unfortunately, after 5 months, nearly 5 months of this going on, there really needs to be foreign journalists on the ground, bolstering, supporting those Palestinian journalists already there.
Alex, stay with us for a second, because in the last half an hour or so, the spokesperson for the IDF, Peter Lerner, has been talking.
There is access, there is abundance of reporting coming out from the Gaza Strip. From our perspective, there are security challenges on the ground that are creating difficult conditions for that, Alistair. From our perspective, we need to facilitate your work in the best possible capability while enabling the ability to continue to operate. Of course, it's not just an Israeli decision at this time, and we've seen international journalists that have gone in from CNN, from the Egyptian side, and there's also something that needs to be taken into consideration.
They talk about security concerns there. Let's just address that. Do they mean the security of journalists? Because there have been journalists embedded briefly with the IDF, or alongside this, they're talking about the security of their own actions and not necessarily wanting that to be seen by journalists. What is it?
I have no idea exactly what it is. All I know is that without foreign journalists on the ground, it's impossible to prove or disprove anything. And our Palestinian journalists, our colleagues who are on the ground, are literally our windows on what's going on in Gaza at the moment. They are suffering after nearly 5 months, a great deal of personal stress. Many of them have lost their homes. They, like everyone else in Gaza, is under the most serious bombardment of that area ever. And they cannot be expected to carry the burden of reporting on a significant world event on their own. Now, it's, with all due respect to Mr. Lerner, it's not right to say that there is abundance of access. There is no access. It's not right to say that CNN got in and therefore that's a perfect example. I was with Clarissa Ward, the CNN chief correspondent, when she was allowed in and I was not. The only reason why she got in was that she went with the United Arab Emirates aid group into Gaza. It was a very restricted visit, as Clarissa Ward will admit herself. It was 2 hours long. She was not allowed out of the car. She was just allowed to the field hospital. She spent a short amount of time there, and then she came back. Embedding with the IDF, as with any other military, is an insight, a very glimpse of a window into exactly what's happening, and can provide some insights. You can see how the military is getting on. You can get an idea of the morale of that particular army or that particular military. This happens with all militaries all over the world. But they decide what route you take. They decide where you go. They decide if or whether you can speak to anyone on the ground. And the IDF has not allowed any of the embedded journalists that they've taken in to talk to any Palestinians, which of course leaves a massive window, a massive gap in accurately reporting what's going on. There are serious allegations against the Israeli military about how they're conducting this war, allegations of war crimes, more serious allegation of genocide. Now, unless we get journalists on the ground who are prepared and able to report independently, we're not going to be able to prove or disprove that.
Alex, final question. There are many other signatories that people will know on there: Jeremy Bowen, Rita Chakrabarti, Matt Fry, those kind of people who've got vast experience. Do you think this will make a difference, or do you think it's going to be circumstances that change that allow journalists to enter Gaza and have a look at what's happened?
I hope it does make a difference. We wouldn't be trying it if we didn't still have some hope, but multiple attempts in the past from a range of different organizations, including as you mentioned, the Israeli Foreign Press Association, including a number of NGOs, including media organizations, BBC, Sky, ITN, Channel 4, all put in a joint letter before Christmas last November. There have been multiple attempts, both individually and collectively, and so far they've failed. Let's hope they change their mind, because it's really important for accurate, independent information to put to bed all this suspicion and doubts about exactly what's going on inside Gaza.
Alex Crawford, our special correspondent, joining us from Erbil in Iraq.